The automatic doors slid open. A man stepped inside. Nobody noticed him. Not at first. He wore a faded jacket. Dark jeans. Worn sneakers. No brand names. No logos. No flash. Just, ordinary. The kind of ordinary people walk past without thinking. He grabbed a shopping cart. The wheel squeaked slightly as he pushed it forward. He moved slowly through the aisles. Not rushed. Not uncertain. Just, present. He picked up bread. Checked the price. Put it in the cart. Milk. Eggs. Fresh vegetables. Simple items. Nothing expensive. Nothing that suggested wealth. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. Other shoppers moved around him. Some brushed past without apology. Others glanced at him briefly. Then looked away. Because that's what people do. They categorize. They sort. They decide who matters in seconds. And this man. This quiet man with weathered hands and a simple jacket. He didn't register as important. Not yet. He continued shopping. Unbothered. Unhurried. As if he had all the time in the world. Because he did. Near the produce section, a young employee restocked shelves. She smiled at everyone who passed. Genuine smiles. The kind that reached the eyes. When the man approached, she smiled at him too. "Good afternoon," she said. He nodded. "Afternoon." His voice was quiet. Calm. Respectful. She went back to her work. He continued shopping. But something had happened in that moment. Something small. Something most people would miss. She had seen him. Not his clothes. Not his cart. Not his shoes. Him. And he had noticed. Because people who have been invisible their entire lives. They notice when someone sees them. The man moved toward the deli counter. A crowd had gathered. People waiting for their orders. Some patient. Most not. He took a number. 92. They were serving 84. He stood quietly at the back. Waiting. A woman in expensive athleisure pushed past him. She didn't say "excuse me." She just moved. As if he wasn't there. The man stepped aside. No reaction. No offense taken. Just, space given. Because that's what he did. He made space. For everyone else. Even those who didn't make space for him. Another man, mid-50s, in a designer polo shirt, glanced at him. Then glanced away. Quickly. As if looking too long might be contagious. The deli worker called out, 85. A woman rushed forward. Then 86. Then 87. The crowd thinned. Until finally, 92. The man stepped forward. "Half pound of turkey, please," he said. "Thin sliced?" "Yes, thank you." The worker prepared his order. Wrapped it carefully. Handed it over with a smile. "Have a good day." "You too." Simple. Normal. Unremarkable. Exactly as he preferred. He placed the wrapped turkey in his cart. Then moved toward the center aisles. Canned goods. Pasta. Rice. He selected each item with care. Not because of price. Though he checked prices. Not because of brand. Though he read labels. But because of intention. Every choice mattered. Even here. Even now. Even when no one was watching. Especially when no one was watching. A child ran past him. Laughing. Chasing something invisible. The kind of joy only children possess. The man smiled. Small. Genuine. A memory flickered across his face. Then disappeared. The mother of the child hurried after. "I'm so sorry," she said breathlessly. "No need," the man replied. She paused. Something in his voice made her pause. Not the words. The tone. Gentle. Understanding. Patient. She smiled. Then continued after her child. The man watched them go. That flicker of memory returned. Stronger now. A different store. A different time. A different version of himself. Younger. Hungrier. More desperate. He had been that child once. Running. Laughing. Unaware of money or status or the weight the world places on people. And he had been that mother. Apologizing. Explaining. Trying to make himself acceptable to a world that had already decided he wasn't. He shook his head slightly. Old memories. Old pain. No longer his. But never forgotten. Because forgetting where you came from. That's how you lose who you are. He turned down another aisle. This one was quieter. Just him and an elderly man studying soup labels. The elderly man squinted at the small print. Frowned. Put the can back. Picked up another. Squinted again. The man with the cart noticed. He moved closer. Need help reading something? The elderly man looked up. Surprised. Not many people offered help anymore. These labels, he said. Too damn small. The man smiled. Which one are you looking for? Low sodium. Doctor's orders. The man scanned the shelf. Found the right can. Handed it over. This one. The elderly man took it. Read the label, barely. Thank you, son. Anytime. The elderly man studied him for a moment. You're a good man. The man in the worn jacket shook his head gently. Just helping. That's what makes you good. The elderly man placed the soup in his basket. Then shuffled away. Leaving the man alone again. With that word. Good. Such a simple word. But so heavy. Because, good isn't something you claim. It's something others see. When you're not trying to prove anything. The man continued shopping. His cart slowly filled. Nothing extravagant. Nothing wasteful. Just enough. He had learned that lesson long ago. Enough is a powerful word. When you understand it. You're free. He moved toward the front of the store. The checkout lane stretched ahead. Some lanes were packed. Others empty. He chose lane 7. Not because it was shortest. But because the cashier looked tired. And kind. He had learned to recognize kindness in tired eyes. It was a rare combination. But powerful. He waited patiently as the person ahead of him checked out. The conveyor belt moved. Items scanned. Beeps echoed. Normal. Routine. Unremarkable. Then it was his turn. He began placing items on the belt. Bread. Milk. Eggs. Turkey. Vegetables. Canned goods. One by one. Carefully. The cashier smiled at him. Find everything okay? I did. Thank you. She began scanning. Beep. 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 The rhythm was almost musical. Other people joined the line behind him. He could feel them. Their presence. Their impatience. Their judgments forming. Even without words. Because judgment doesn't need words. It exists in the space between people. In the glances. In the sighs. In the way someone stands just a little too far back. As if poverty might be contagious. The cashier continued scanning. She was efficient. Practiced. Professional. She had done this thousands of times. But something was different today. She felt it too. The weight of attention on this man. The subtle shift in energy. The quiet cruelty of assumption. She had seen it before. Too many times. And each time. It bothered her a little more. The total appeared on the screen. $67.43. The man reached for his wallet. Slowly. Not because he was unsure. But because he was deliberate. Everything he did was deliberate. He pulled out a card. Simple. Black. No visible branding. He handed it to the cashier. She took it. Swiped it. Then waited. The machine beeped. Once. Twice. Then. The screen flashed red. Declined. The cashier blinked. She looked at the screen. Then at the man. Then back at the screen. She had seen this before. Many times. Cards declined for 100 different reasons. Technical glitches. Expired cards. Insufficient funds. Frozen accounts. It happened. She tried again. Swiped the card a second time. The man stood quietly. No panic in his eyes. No embarrassment coloring his cheeks. Just patience. The machine processed. Beeped. Declined. The cashier's expression shifted slightly. Uncomfortable now. Not because of the man. But because of what was about to happen. She had worked retail long enough to know. She could feel the energy behind him changing. People shifting weight. Crossing arms. Checking phones with exaggerated focus. The social performance of impatience. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "It's declining." The man nodded. "Could you try once more?" His voice was steady. Not defensive. Not angry. Just steady. She appreciated that. She tried a third time. Carefully. Making sure she swiped correctly. Making sure she gave him every chance. Declined. The word felt heavier each time it appeared. Behind the man, someone sighed. Loud enough to be heard. Intentionally loud. The cashier winced. The man didn't turn around. He simply stood there. Thinking. Not about the card. He knew the card was fine. He knew the money was there. He knew this was technical. But technical problems don't care about truth. They only care about what appears on a screen. And right now, what appeared on that screen was judgment. Maybe. The cashier began. But she didn't know how to finish. Maybe what? Maybe he didn't have the money. Maybe he should step aside. Maybe he should try another card. The suggestions felt cruel before she could speak them. The man met her eyes. "It's okay," he said gently. "I understand." And he did understand. More than she knew. He understood that this moment wasn't about him. It was about everyone else. About what they believed. About what they assumed. About how quickly people write stories about strangers. A woman 3 people back spoke up. Not to him. But loud enough for him to hear. If people don't have money, they shouldn't hold up the line. The words hung in the air. Sharp. Cutting. Meant to wound without direct confrontation. The passive aggression of public judgment. The man's jaw tightened. Just slightly. So slightly that only someone watching closely would notice. And the cashier was watching closely. She saw it. That micro-expression. That brief flash of pain. Not from being broke. But from being reduced to an assumption. "Let me call my manager," she said quietly. The man nodded. "Thank you." She pressed a button. Then picked up the phone. The store's PA system crackled to life. "Manager to register 7, please." The words echoed through the store. And everyone nearby turned to look. Because those words meant something. They meant problem. They meant delay. They meant drama. And people are drawn to drama. Even when they pretend they're not. Especially when they pretend they're not. The man stood perfectly still. He had been here before. Not in this exact store. Not in this exact moment. But in this exact feeling. The feeling of being watched. Being judged. Being found wanting. By people who knew nothing about him. 23 years ago, he had stood in a different line. In a different store. In a different city. He was 19 then. Still figuring out who he was. Still learning how the world worked. He had been buying food for his mother. She was sick. Had been for months. The medical bills had eaten everything. Insurance covered some. But not enough. Never enough. He had $23.47 in his account. The groceries totaled $24.15. 68 cents short. Such a small number. But in that moment, it felt like the Grand Canyon. The cashier had looked at him with pity. The people behind him with irritation. And he had stood there, deciding which item to put back. The bread? The eggs? The medicine his mother needed? A woman behind him had exhaled loudly. Some people just don't plan ahead, she'd muttered. And something inside him had cracked. Not broken. But cracked. Just enough to let light in. Just enough to show him something important. That dignity isn't given. It's taken. Not aggressively. But quietly. Through the decision to remain yourself. Even when the world tries to make you small. He had put back the bread. Bought everything else. Walked home. And that night. He made a promise. Not about money. Money was just a tool. He made a promise about power. The power to stand in that line. The power to be judged. And the power to remain unmoved. Because the only opinion that mattered was the one he had of himself. That was 23 years ago. Now he stood in another line. Different store. Different cashier. Different people. But the same test. And he realized something. Money hadn't changed the test. It had only changed what the test revealed. Not about him. About everyone else. The manager approached. Mid-40s. Tired eyes. The look of someone who had seen everything retail could offer. And wasn't impressed by any of it. "What's the problem?" he asked. The cashier explained. The manager looked at the man. Really looked at him. Worn jacket. Faded jeans. Weathered face. And made his assessment. In 3 seconds. The manager tried the card himself. Same result. Declined. He frowned. "Do you have another form of payment?" The question was reasonable. The tone was not. It carried weight. Assumption. Judgment. The man paused. Not because he didn't have other cards. He had 7. Each one connected to accounts most people couldn't imagine. But because he was making a decision. End this now. Or see it through. Behind him, the woman spoke again. "This is ridiculous." Another voice joined in. "Some people have places to be." A man further back, "Maybe shop within your means, buddy." That last one landed differently. Because it wasn't just impatience. It was cruelty dressed as advice. The manager heard it too. He should have said something. Should have defended the customer. Should have reminded everyone that patience is free. He didn't. Instead, he looked at the man. "Sir, if you can't complete the transaction, I'll need you to step aside." The words were professional. But the message was clear. You're holding up progress. You're the problem. You need to move. The man took a slow breath. He could feel it. That familiar tightening in his chest. Not anger. Not shame. Something deeper. The weight of being misunderstood. The exhaustion of being invisible until you're inconvenient. The quiet violence of casual judgment. He looked at the manager. Then at the cashier. Then at the line of people behind him. All waiting. All watching. All having already decided who he was. And he smiled. Not a big smile. Not a performative one. Just a small, knowing smile. The kind that says, "I see you. I understand you. And I'm not what you think." "I'd like to try one more time," he said calmly. The manager hesitated. Policy said he could refuse. But something about the man's tone. Something about his absolute calm made him pause. One more time, the manager agreed. The cashier took the card again. Her hands were shaking slightly now. Not from fear. From empathy. She could feel the weight of the room pressing down on this man. And she hated it. She swiped the card. Slowly. Carefully. As if being gentle with the machine might change the outcome. The machine beeped. Processing. Everyone waited. The screen flickered. And then. Declined. The word appeared in red letters. Final. Definitive. Unforgiving. A murmur rippled through the line. Someone laughed. Quick. Embarrassed. But still a laugh. The manager crossed his arms. Sir. But before he could finish, something unexpected happened. A small voice cut through the tension. Mister. Everyone turned. A little girl had stepped forward. She couldn't have been more than 7. Big brown eyes. Braided hair. A pink backpack. She was standing beside her mother. But she had stepped forward. Toward the man. Her mother reached for her shoulder. Sweetheart, stay back. But the girl didn't move. She looked up at the man. Directly at him. Not at his clothes. Not at his cart. Not at the declined card. At him. Are you okay? She asked. The question was so pure. So sincere. So completely absent of judgment. That it changed the entire room. The man looked down at the little girl. And for the first time since entering the store, his expression shifted. The calm cracked. Just slightly. Just enough to let something else through. Warmth. I'm okay, he said softly. Thank you for asking. The girl studied him for a moment longer. Then nodded. As if his answer satisfied something in her. She started to step back. But then paused. You look sad, she said. Her mother's eyes widened. Honey, that's not. But the man raised his hand gently. She's right, he said. He looked at the girl. I'm a little sad. But not for the reason you might think. Why then? Such a simple question. Asked with such pure curiosity. The man knelt down. Slowly. Bringing himself to her eye level. The store seemed to hold its breath. Because, he said quietly, sometimes people forget to be kind. And that makes me sad. The girl tilted her head. My mom says kindness is free. Your mom is very smart. The girl smiled. Then she reached into her backpack. Pulled out a small pink wallet. Unzipped it with careful fingers. And pulled out 3 crumpled dollar bills. You can have this, she said. She held the money out to him. $3. Probably saved from allowance. Probably meant for something important to her. And she was offering it to a stranger. The man stared at the bills. And something inside him broke. Not painfully. Beautifully. Because this child. This 7-year-old girl. Had done what no adult in that store had done. She had seen a human being in need. And responded with her whole heart. I can't take your money, he said gently. Why not? Because you've already given me something more valuable. What? You reminded me why I do what I do. The girl looked confused. But she smiled anyway. And put her money back in her wallet. The man stood up. He looked at the girl's mother. She had tears in her eyes. She wasn't sure why. But she felt it. That shift. That change in the air. The man reached into his pocket. Pulled out a different wallet. Leather. Simple. But clearly expensive. He pulled out a business card. Handed it to the mother. When she's older, he said quietly, and ready for college, call me. The mother took the card. Looked at it. Her face went pale. The name on the card meant nothing to most people in that store. But it meant something to her. Because she recognized it. She looked up at the man. You're. He put a finger to his lips. Gently. A quiet request for discretion. She nodded. Still stunned. The man turned back to the manager. I'll try a different card. The manager, who had been watching the entire exchange, nodded. Something in his demeanor had changed. He wasn't sure what he had just witnessed. But he knew it was important. The man pulled out a platinum card. Unmarked. No bank name visible. Just a string of numbers. And a small logo most people wouldn't recognize. The cashier took it. Her hands had stopped shaking. She swiped it. The machine beeped. Once. Twice. Then. Approved. The word appeared in green. The cashier looked up. Shocked. Not because it was approved. But because of what the screen showed next. Available credit, $________________________ The number was so long she had to count the zeros. Twice. Her eyes widened. The manager leaned over to look. His expression changed instantly. From irritation to confusion to realization. The man pulled out his phone. Made a quick call. Yes, this is Michael Chen. Account ending in 7743. There seems to be a technical issue with my primary card. Can you unlock it remotely? He paused. Listened. Thank you. He hung up. Looked at the cashier. Could you try the first card again? She nodded. Picked up the original card. Swiped it. The machine beeped. Approved. The cashier's hands trembled as she finished the transaction. $67.43. Such a small number compared to what she had just seen. The receipt printed. She handed it to him. Along with both cards. I'm so sorry for the trouble, she said. Her voice was barely a whisper. The man smiled at her. A real smile this time. You have nothing to apologize for. You were kind. That's all that matters. He took his bags. Turned to leave. But the manager stepped forward. Sir, we. The manager didn't know how to finish. The man waited. Patient. We apologize for any inconvenience, the manager finally managed. The man looked at him. Really looked at him. And the manager felt it. The weight of that gaze. Not angry. Not judgmental. Just, knowing. It's fine, the man said. Really. But his tone said something else. His tone said, you revealed yourself today. And now you have to live with what you revealed. The man walked past the line of people. The same people who had judged him minutes before. Now they wouldn't meet his eyes. They studied their phones. Their shoes. The ceiling tiles. Anything but him. Because shame is heavy. And they were all carrying it now. The woman who had complained about people without money. She stared at the floor. Her face red. The man who told him to shop within his means. He had turned away entirely. Pretending to study a magazine. The laugher. Silent now. Wondering if anyone would remember. Hoping they wouldn't. The man walked toward the exit. The little girl waved at him. He waved back. And then he was gone. The automatic doors closed behind him. The store remained silent for a long moment. Then slowly. Life resumed. The cashier scanned the next customer's items. The manager returned to his office. The line moved forward. But nothing was the same. Because something had been revealed. Not about the man. About everyone else. 2 hours later, the manager sat in his office. Small. Cluttered. Fluorescent light flickering overhead. He held the business card the man had given the mother. She had shown it to him. Discreetly. After the man left. And now he sat there. Staring at it. The name meant nothing to him at first. Michael Chen. Common name. Could be anyone. But something nagged at him. He opened his laptop. Typed the name. And waited. The search results loaded. His stomach dropped. Michael Chen, founder and CEO, Horizon Ventures. Net worth, $8.3 billion. Forbes 400. Philanthropist. Major investments in technology, education, and sustainable energy. The manager scrolled through the results. Each one more impressive than the last. Photos of Michael Chen at charity events. Speaking at conferences. Shaking hands with world leaders. And in every photo, he wore simple clothes. No flash. No designer labels. Just, plain. The same way he had dressed in the store. The manager found a video. An interview from 6 months ago. He clicked play. The interviewer asked, "Mr. Chen, you're one of the wealthiest people in the world, yet you dress so simply. Why?" Michael smiled in that same gentle way. "Because clothes don't make you who you are. Your actions do. And I never want to be treated differently. Because of what I wear or what's in my bank account. I want to be treated according to how I treat others." The interviewer laughed. "That's admirable, but surely it must be frustrating when people don't recognize you." Michael's expression grew serious. "It's not frustrating. It's revealing. People show you who they really are when they think you have no power. And that's valuable information." The manager paused the video. He felt sick. Because he had revealed himself today. And it wasn't pretty. He had made assumptions. He had been impatient. He had been dismissive. All because of how someone looked. He had failed a test he didn't know he was taking. And worse. Michael Chen knew it. The manager put his head in his hands. Back on the floor, the cashier was thinking about the same thing. Her shift had ended. She was walking to her car. But her mind was still in that checkout line. She had been kind to the man. She knew that. She had tried to help. Had been patient. But she had also felt that familiar pang of pity. Had assumed he was struggling. Had mentally categorized him as less than. Even while being kind. And that bothered her. Because kindness with assumption. Is that really kindness? Or is it just a softer form of judgment? She sat in her car. Engine off. Thinking. She remembered the look on his face. When the little girl asked if he was okay. That moment of vulnerability. That crack in his armor. He had been hurt. Not by the declined card. But by the assumptions. By the way people looked at him. By the casual cruelty disguised as impatience. She had seen wealthy people be rude to service workers. She had seen poor people be generous with their last dollar. She had seen every combination of wealth and character. But somehow. She still made assumptions. They all did. It was automatic. Unconscious. Human. But that didn't make it right. She started her car. Drove home. Made a decision. Tomorrow, she would try harder. Not to be kinder. She was already kind. But to see people. Really see them. Beyond the clothes. Beyond the cart contents. Beyond the assumptions. To see the human. Every single time. Meanwhile, across town, the woman who had complained stood in her own kitchen. Expensive kitchen. Marble counters. Stainless steel appliances. Everything perfect. Everything expensive. Everything empty. She couldn't stop thinking about it. About him. About what she had said. If people don't have money, they shouldn't hold up the line. The words echoed in her mind. Ugly words. Mean words. True words about who she was. She had said them without thinking. Had meant them at the time. But now. Now she felt something else. Shame. Not because he turned out to be wealthy. But because her words had been cruel regardless. Whether he had money or not. He was still human. Still deserving of patience. Still worthy of basic respect. And she had denied him that. Over $67. Over 3 minutes of her time. She had revealed something about herself. And she didn't like what she saw. Her husband walked into the kitchen. You okay? She shook her head. Something happened today. She told him the story. He listened. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. What did you learn? He finally asked. That I'm not who I thought I was. He nodded. That's the first step. First step to what? To becoming who you want to be. She looked at him. And started to cry. Not dramatic tears. Just quiet recognition. Of her own ugliness. And the work ahead. Back at the store, the little girl was having dinner with her family. Spaghetti. Her favorite. Her mother had been quiet all evening. Mommy, why are you sad? The girl asked. Her mother looked up. I'm not sad, sweetheart. I'm thinking. About the man. Yes. Was he someone important? Her mother paused. How do you explain this to a 7-year-old? He's someone very successful, she said carefully. He's helped a lot of people. Built schools. Created jobs. Given money to charity. The girl thought about this. So he wasn't poor? No, baby. He wasn't. Then why did everyone act like he was? Such a simple question. Such a profound question. Because, her mother said slowly, people make guesses about others based on what they look like. And sometimes those guesses are wrong. That's not nice. No. It's not. The girl ate another bite of spaghetti. I'm glad I asked if he was okay. Her mother smiled. Me too. Why? Because you saw him. Not his clothes. Not his money. Just him. And you responded with kindness. That's the most important thing a person can do. The girl smiled. Can I tell you a secret? Of course. He didn't look poor to me. No. No. He looked calm. Like he knew something no one else knew. Her mother stared at her daughter. 7 years old. And already wiser than most adults. What do you think he knew? She asked. The girl thought about it. That being nice is more important than being rich. Her mother's eyes filled with tears. Yes, baby. I think that's exactly what he knew. 3 days later, Michael Chen sat in his office. 53rd floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows. View of the entire city. But he wasn't looking at the view. He was looking at a photo on his desk. Himself at 19. Standing outside a grocery store. Different store. Different city. Different time. But the same expression. The same weariness. The same understanding that the world judges quickly. His assistant knocked. Mr. Chen. Your 2 o'clock is here. Send them in. The door opened. A woman entered. Nervous. Clutching a portfolio. She looked around the office. Clearly overwhelmed. Ms. Rodriguez, Michael said, standing. Thank you for coming. Thank you for inviting me, she replied. She was the cashier from the store. He had looked up her information. Found out she was taking night classes. Studying business management. Working full-time. Raising 2 kids. Divorced. Struggling. But trying. Really trying. Please, sit, he said. She sat. Perched on the edge of the chair. Ready to run. I'm sure you're wondering why I asked you here, he began. I think so, she said. I wanted to apologize again for what happened. Michael raised his hand gently. You have nothing to apologize for. You were professional. Kind. Patient. You did everything right. She looked confused. Then why? Because I want to offer you a job. The words hung in the air. She blinked. A job. Director of Customer Experience. For all my retail properties. She stared at him. I don't understand. Michael leaned back in his chair. In that moment, when everyone else was making assumptions, you remained kind. When everyone else was impatient, you were patient. When everyone else saw a problem, you saw a person. I was just doing my job. Exactly. And you did it with humanity. That's rare. And that's valuable. She shook her head. Mr. Chen, I'm nobody. I'm a cashier. I don't have experience running anything. You have the most important experience. You know what it feels like to be on the other side of judgment. You know what kindness looks like in practice. Everything else can be taught. She was crying now. Quiet tears. I can't, this is too much. Think about it, he said gently. Take your time. But know this, the world needs more people like you in positions of influence. People who see others. Really see them. She nodded. Unable to speak. He handed her a folder. Job description. Salary. Benefits. Look it over. Call me when you're ready. She took the folder. Stood. Mr. Chen. Yes. Why do you do this? Test people, I mean. He smiled. I don't test people. Life tests people. I just pay attention to the results. She left his office. In a daze. Holding a folder that would change her life. Not because of money. But because someone had seen her. Really seen her. And decided she mattered. Michael sat alone in his office after she left. The city stretched out before him. Millions of people. Millions of stories. Millions of moments of judgment and grace. He thought about the store. About the declined card. About the assumptions. About the little girl. That moment when she asked if he was okay. That had been real. Pure. Uncorrupted by social conditioning. Children see the world differently. They haven't learned to categorize yet. They haven't learned that some people matter more than others. They haven't learned that wealth equals worth. They just see humans. And respond accordingly. He picked up his phone. Made a call. Hi, this is Michael Chen. I'd like to make a donation to Jefferson Elementary School. Yes, the one on Maple Street. I'd like to fund a full scholarship program. For students who demonstrate kindness and character. Not just grades. Character. He paused. Listened. Start with $5 million. We can expand from there. He hung up. It wasn't about the money. It never was. It was about what the money could amplify. Kindness. Character. The things that actually mattered. He stood. Walked to the window. Looked down at the city below. Somewhere down there, the little girl was playing. Learning. Growing. Carrying forward the lesson her mother had taught her. That kindness matters. That people matter. That how you treat others when they can't help you. That's who you really are. He smiled. And made another decision. Tomorrow, he would go shopping again. Same store. Same simple clothes. Same ordinary appearance. Because the tests never stopped. And the lessons never ended. And the world always revealed itself. To those patient enough to watch. Michael stood at that window for a long time. Thinking. About the journey that brought him here. About the person he used to be. About the person he had become. He remembered his mother's words. The ones she spoke when he was young. People will measure you by what they see. Never let them decide who you are. For years, he thought he understood. He thought it meant, prove them wrong. Show them what you're capable of. Make them see you. But he had it backwards. It wasn't about making them see. It was about seeing yourself. Clearly. Without their validation. Without their approval. Without their judgment affecting your understanding of your worth. Because the truth is. Everyone faces judgment. Rich or poor. Successful or struggling. Famous or unknown. The question isn't whether you'll be judged. The question is, will you let that judgment define you? He thought about all of you watching this right now. Yes, you. Because stories like this aren't just entertainment. They're mirrors. Reflecting back the moments in your own life. When you were judged. Or when you judged others. When you were seen. Or when you looked past someone. When you stepped forward. Or when you stepped back. And here's what matters. It's not too late. It's never too late. To choose differently. To see differently. To be different. Michael had learned something powerful over the years. Character isn't revealed in moments of abundance. It's revealed in moments of pressure. When someone can't help you. When someone has no power over your life. When someone appears to have nothing you want. That's when your true nature emerges. And the beautiful thing? You get to choose what emerges. Every single day. Every single interaction. Every single moment. He turned from the window. And thought about something else. About stories. About why they matter. About why they survive. Stories like this one don't trend because of algorithms. They trend because of hearts. Because someone watched. Felt something. And decided to share that feeling. Through a like. A comment. A subscription. Not because they were asked to. But because the story touched something true inside them. And they wanted it to touch others too. That's how meaning spreads. Not through force. But through resonance. If this story made you pause. If it made you think about your own character. If it reminded you of a moment when you were judged. Or a moment when you judged someone else. Then maybe it deserves to live beyond this moment. Maybe it deserves a like. Not for the algorithm. But as a small acknowledgement that stories about character matter. That reminders about humanity matter. That lessons about kindness matter. And if you believe these stories should be told more often. If you believe the world needs more conversations about character than about status. Then maybe a subscription makes sense. Not as a favor to a creator. But as a vote for the kind of content you want to see more of. And if you're willing to be vulnerable. If you're willing to be honest. Leave a comment about what you would have done. In that grocery store. In that line. If you had been there. Would you have been the one who sighed? The one who complained? The one who looked away? Or would you have been the little girl? Stepping forward when others stepped back. Not because it was easy. But because it was right. There's no judgment in the question. Only curiosity. Only the invitation to reflect. Because that's how we grow. Not by pretending we're already perfect. But by honestly examining who we are. And deciding who we want to become. Michael sat back down at his desk. The photo of his younger self still there. Still watching. Still reminding him. Of where he came from. Of what he learned. Of why he continued to teach it. 6 months passed. The store was busier than usual. Holiday season approaching. The cashier, now former cashier, returned for a visit. She wore different clothes now. Professional. Confident. But still kind. That hadn't changed. She walked through the aisles. Remembering. She found the manager. He looked older somehow. More tired. "Hi," she said. He turned. Recognition dawned. "Oh. Hi. I heard you, you're doing well." "I am." An awkward silence. "I wanted to thank you," she said. He looked confused. "Thank me?" "That day. With Mr. Chen. It changed my life. If it hadn't happened, I wouldn't have this opportunity." He nodded slowly. "I'm glad something good came from it." "What about you?" she asked. "How have you been?" He hesitated. Honest answer. Honest answer. That day changed me too. Just, differently. How so? I saw who I was. Really saw it. And I didn't like it. And now. Now I'm trying. Every day. To be better. To see people. To remember that everyone has a story I don't know. She smiled. That's all any of us can do. He smiled back. Tired. But genuine. Yeah. I guess so. She left the store feeling lighter. Not because she had a better job. But because she had witnessed transformation. His transformation. Her transformation. The transformation that happens when people choose growth over ego. The little girl was 10 now. 3 years older. Still kind. But more aware. She understood the story differently now. Her mother had told her who Michael Chen was. What he had done. Why that moment mattered. And the girl had learned something important. That the richest person in the room is often the one who gives when they don't have to. Who sees when it's easier to look away. Who steps forward when others step back. Wealth isn't measured in bank accounts. It's measured in character. And character is built in small moments. Moments that seem insignificant at the time. But ripple outward. Changing trajectories. Changing lives. Changing the world. One decision at a time. Michael continued his practice. Shopping in ordinary stores. Wearing ordinary clothes. Living an extraordinary life disguised as an ordinary one. Not as a test. But as a reminder. To himself. And to anyone paying attention. That who you are doesn't change based on who's watching. It remains constant. Because integrity isn't situational. It's foundational. He declined cards on purpose sometimes. Just to see. Just to remember. Just to stay humble. And every time. The world revealed itself. Some people were kind. Some were cruel. Some were indifferent. But all of them were human. Just trying to get through their day. Carrying their own struggles. Fighting their own battles. And he tried to remember that. Always. So what's the lesson? What's the point of this story? It's not about money. Money was just the context. It's not about a billionaire. That was just the vehicle. The lesson is about you. About me. About all of us. We live in a world that teaches us to categorize quickly. To assess value rapidly. To decide who matters in seconds. And we do it unconsciously. Every single day. The person in the checkout line. The server at the restaurant. The janitor in the building. The homeless person on the street. The immigrant with broken English. The elderly person moving slowly. We see them. And we make judgments. Instant judgments. Based on surfaces. Based on appearances. Based on assumptions. And those judgments. They reveal nothing about them. They reveal everything about us. Because character isn't shown in how you treat people who can help you. It's shown in how you treat people who can't. The CEO treats the board with respect. That's expected. But how does he treat the receptionist? The janitor? The delivery driver? That's character. The wealthy woman is polite to other wealthy women. That's easy. But how does she treat the cashier? The server? The person asking for change? That's character. We all think we're good people. And maybe we are. In the big moments. When we're thinking about it. When we're aware we're being judged. But what about the small moments? The grocery store line. The traffic jam. The slow service. The technical problem. The inconvenience. Who are we then? When nobody important is watching. When there's no reward for kindness. When patience gains us nothing. Who are we in those moments? Because those moments. Those reveal everything. Michael Chen learned this lesson twice. Once as the victim of judgment. Once as the witness to it. And both times, the lesson was the same. Your worth is not determined by others' opinions. Your worth is determined by your own character. And your character is built in moments when no one's keeping score. The little girl understood this instinctively. She didn't help because she knew he was rich. She helped because he seemed sad. She didn't step forward because there was a reward. She stepped forward because it felt right. That's wisdom. Pure wisdom. Uncorrupted by social conditioning. The kind of wisdom we're all born with. But slowly lose. As we learn to categorize. To judge. To protect ourselves from being hurt by assuming the worst. But here's the truth. Assuming the worst doesn't protect you. It hardens you. And hardness isn't strength. It's brittleness disguised as armor. Real strength is staying soft. Staying open. Staying kind. Even when the world gives you reasons not to be. Even when people judge you. Even when kindness isn't rewarded. Even when patience isn't appreciated. That's strength. Not the absence of hardness. But the choice to remain soft anyway. So here's what I want you to take from this story. Not inspiration. We have enough inspiration. What we need is application. Tomorrow, you'll be in a line somewhere. At a store. At a coffee shop. In traffic. Somewhere. And someone will be slow. Or confused. Or struggling. And you'll feel that familiar irritation rising. That impatience. That judgment. And in that moment. Pause. Just for a second. And remember. That person is someone's child. Someone's parent. Someone's friend. That person has a story you don't know. Struggles you can't see. A life as complex and real as your own. And then choose. Choose kindness. Not because they deserve it. But because you want to be someone who gives it freely. Choose patience. Not because you have time to spare. But because you want to be someone who values people over convenience. Choose to see. Really see. The human in front of you. Not the inconvenience. Not the delay. Not the problem. The human. That's the lesson. That's the only lesson that matters. Everything else is noise. Michael Chen could buy anything he wanted. He could demand respect. He could force recognition. He could never wait in line again. But he chooses to. Not as a test for others. But as a reminder to himself. That his wealth doesn't define him. His character does. And character is built in the mundane. In the ordinary. In the moments that seem to matter least. Those are the moments that matter most. Because those are the moments we forget we're being watched. By ourselves. By our own conscience. By the person we want to be. The cashier learned. The manager learned. The woman who complained learned. They all learned the same lesson. Just in different ways. That judgment is easy. But seeing is hard. That assumptions are automatic. But understanding requires effort. That cruelty can be casual. But kindness must be intentional. And that the person in front of you always deserves the benefit of the doubt. Always deserves patience. Always deserves to be seen. Not because of what they have. But because of what they are. Human. Just like you. Just like me. Just like all of us. Trying our best. Falling short sometimes. Succeeding sometimes. But always. Always deserving of basic dignity. So the next time you're in that line. Be the little girl. Step forward when others step back. See when others look away. Choose kindness when others choose convenience. Not because you're better than them. But because you want to be better than you were yesterday. That's all growth is. Small choices. In small moments. Repeated over time. Until those small choices become who you are. Michael Chen is a billionaire. But that's not what makes him remarkable. What makes him remarkable is this. He remembers. He remembers being 19. Being judged. Being dismissed. Being reduced to an assumption. And he refuses to do that to others. Not because he's enlightened. but because he's human. And he's chosen to let his humanity guide him. More than his wealth. More than his success. More than his status. His humanity. That's the lesson. That's the story. That's the truth we all need to remember. You don't need billions to be wealthy. You need character. And character is free. It costs nothing to give. But it's worth everything when received. So give it freely. Give it often. Give it especially to those who seem to need it least. Because those are often the people who need it most. The person in the worn jacket. The person with the declined card. The person moving slowly. The person struggling. That person. Could be anyone. Could be you someday. Could be someone who changes the world. If we just see them. Really see them. And respond with our whole heart. That's the lesson. That's the story. That's the truth. And if you take nothing else from these 90 minutes, take this. Be kind. Not because you'll be rewarded. But because kindness is its own reward. Be patient. Not because you have time. But because people are always worth the time. Be humble. Not because you're less than anyone. But because you're no more than anyone either. And be the person who steps forward. When everyone else steps back. Not because you're brave. But because someone has to be. And it might as well be you.